KSI has just announced he will be returning to the boxing ring on August 27th of this year, and we're going to be talking about everything we know about this upcoming event. So starting off, we're going to be talking about all the possible opponents that KSI could be going up against on August 27th. So to start, a pretty obvious one would be Alex Wasabi, as of course, Alex Wasabi has just defeated KSI's younger brother in Deji, and he probably wants to get that back. But of course, more than that, there's been a long history between him and Alex Wasabi, as they've been going back and forth for a while, for a couple of years now. And KSI has made many videos on Alex Wasabi, pretty much just laughing at him. He has like two
Yeah.
part twos of laughing at Alex Wasabi, and then of course after Alex Wasabi had defeated Deji, he made a video on that as well. So definitely a possible opponent that makes sense, and it would have a lot of history behind it. We'll build up some pretty good hype for it. With they could probably market it very well, bringing in all the history as well as Alex beating KSI's younger brother, and I think it could work out come August.
Yeah, KSI's been clowning on Alex Wasabi for so many years. The amount of trash talk, the amount of shit he's been talking, literally just memeing him for just for since 2018 when he made that first call out. And to think that this fight's actually possible now is kind of funny, considering like how much of a joke he saw Alex as. But it sounds like he wants to fight him. There's a lot of clips out there that say that have him saying that he's down to fight Alex next, and it looks like another possible opponent for KSI. Austin McBroom has not really been signing the papers recently and hasn't been answering the calls, so that fight might fall through with Austin McBroom, as he's demanding a lot of money, and he's pretty much probably pricing himself out. You could imagine, as his whole social glove scandal and how he promised all that pay to all those fighters. Nothing ended up happening out of it, and it's just it's kind of a shady situation. Doesn't look like he's gonna be fighting Austin McBroom. Maybe Gibb could fight Austin McBroom. Maybe on the undercard of this fight. Maybe on a different event. Who knows? But there are a couple of options for KSI. Even the winner of the upcoming match between Adams and Dr. Mike. Those guys are fighting at the same weight class in cruiserweight. However, I think it's a pretty fast turnaround to be coming like 3 months later to fight KSI, who's one of the more experienced guys in YouTube boxing. It'll have to be a pretty fast turnaround to come in, and it'll probably be a pro fight as well. So I mean, it would be interesting seeing iDubbbz or Dr. Mike maybe get in there, but we got to see what they have to bring next week.
Yeah, as you said, it would definitely be a fast turnaround. However, I think some of those matchups could definitely be interesting, and maybe particularly Dr. Mike, as he would kind of have a size advantage over KSI. And I feel like that would be a very interesting matchup in terms of physical attributes, and to see how they would go up against each other, it would be interesting, as also Dr. Mike has lots of years of experience, maybe not going all out and practicing all day every day, but definitely still a great road of experience, and that could definitely pay tribute to him if he ever went up against KSI. And then also, of course, a huge opponent that we've been waiting to see for a very, very long time is, of course, Jake Paul, who this fight has been a long, long time coming. And pretty much ever since KSI called out both the Paul brothers, ever since he beat Joe Weller back in 2018. And this would definitely be a huge, huge fight. Probably the biggest fight in G boxing history, potentially. Maybe even outperforming KSI versus Logan Paul too, but
Yeah, I think
it would
so.
be hard to do. But I think it could definitely be possible with all the hype, all the history between the two. And as of this point right now, it seems very hard to see this fight ever pretty much happening. And especially now with KSI being years behind experience wise against Jake Paul, who now also it seems like he's gonna fight in August as well against someone else. And it would be very hard for KSI to catch up in experience wise. And it kind of seems like Jake Paul has moved past the point of fighting kind of YouTube boxer level, which, to be fair to KSI, it's not necessarily his fault. He's at that like level around. It's more that he just has been very inactive. So
Yeah.
that plays a big tribute to it, and it's still maybe possible in the future if KSI can rack up a lot of wins very pretty quickly, as well as we saw in Jake Paul's rise.
He's
He
very
he managed
active.
to stay very active and just consistently fighting. As in a couple of months, pretty much, he fought from Ben Askren, Tyron Woodley, and Tyron Woodley again.
Supposed to be
And
Tommy.
even though it's supposed to be Tommy Fury,
Yeah.
yeah, but we see him moving fast. So KSI would definitely have to try to emulate something of that sort, but who knows? As of right now, I don't see it too possible of happening.
Yeah, and with KSI's like long layoff, as he's not been fighting, as you mentioned. He's been mainly focusing on music and his tours recently, and yeah, the game's kind of like passed him up at this point. And Jake's been grinding, as you've been mentioning. He's fought all these fights. He's been in the gym working hard, all these training camps. The experience is going to add up. It's not going to be easy for him to just come in there and be at the same level as Jake. But another possible opponent for KSI, maybe down the road, would be a trilogy with Logan Paul. Obviously, that fight was massive. I think more people really want to see that Jake Paul fight, though, especially now because the Logan Paul rivalry is pretty much gone. They're business partners now. They own Prime, the drink company. And while it would be like a great way to promote it, obviously, the two faces of the company fighting each other, I think it's kind of past the time now. I don't think anyone's... Obviously, there would be interest for the fight, but it wouldn't be, a Jake Paul versus KSI level where that rivalry is there, that hatred, as well as just the numbers. Like, Jake Paul has been boxing for a while. He's pulling more audience from both the boxing worlds, now the MMA world. Even though most people hate him and, they say what they want about him, but a lot of people are paying attention, and I think KSI, it could happen one day, as you said, but it's got to be down the line. He has to have a couple fights, especially, which, I mean, credit to him. He's getting back in there 2 weeks after Jake's fight, and we're going to see how he does against one of these possible opponents probably, but maybe it's someone else we don't even know.
Yeah, for me personally, it's just very hard seeing Logan Paul going up against KSI again, as, like you mentioned, that rivalry is very much gone at this point, and I don't think as many people would buy into it because a huge factor of that second and first fight was all the animosity and hype building up to that fight due to their rivalry. And now that it's gone, I don't see it being as profitable. And obviously, they don't want to do it as now they're pretty good friends.
I mean,
So,
it could still be like a big fight of, as business partners and not really like hating each other. But
yeah, it definitely could be. And maybe that would be down the road, probably quite a bit later.
50 years old.
Yeah.
Roy Jones, Mike Tyson style.
Yeah, maybe we'll see it one day, but right now it just doesn't make too sense. And kind of moving on to another point of this big event coming up for KSI is it's his first event and first fight since 2019. Of course, where he beat Logan Paul via split decision on that massive event. And of course, only time will tell to see what real factors have been affected of KSI's by taking such a long layoff, whether or not he'll be rusty, whether or not some of his tools might be as sharpened as they could have been if he had stayed active. But I feel like after such a long time off, he's definitely going to have to kind of work his way back. It's maybe in some of those earlier rounds against whoever he fights, he might be a little rusty and then kind of warm up into the fight. But there's a few things that he might have to get adjusted to. And since it's been such a long time, and we didn't really know KSI was going to be fighting again, and he had actually put out a tweet saying, I don't even need to fight, I just like proving people wrong, which I feel like might not be the exact best mindset going into a fight, especially where you have to be 100% focused on your goal. And if he's kind of doing it not out of his own wanting and desire to going up against a good competition and improving as a boxer and in skill, and more just to show people, hey, I'm still fighting, I can still do this, I could beat like Jake Paul and those people. I don't know if that's the best for long term and whether or not that will help him or not.
100%.
For a while, it didn't seem like he was going to fight or he was too interested to fighting bits. Because, of course, you can't blame him. He achieved originally what he set out to by beating Logan Paul. So, I just hope he's not going in for the wrong reasons and just to try to show Jake Paul and all the fans that he can hang in there with him.
Yeah, absolutely. There's two sides of the coin, right? So, there's one part where you think, he should be doing this for himself, but it's also where he looks at it as, he's trying to prove people wrong. I mean, all his last opponents, when he fought Joe Weller, he was, he grinded and he got in shape, got into a boxing match shape, and he was able to do what he did against Joe Weller. And there was a lot of people underestimating him at the time. Didn't think he could do it. Didn't think he had the mindset to do a boxing match. Didn't think he had the discipline. But he proved them wrong. He took a huge step up in competition to fight Logan Paul. So, definitely. I mean, he has in his career, we've seen that he's trying to prove people wrong. But the mindset of him not needing to fight is definitely you want to see him do it for himself. You don't want him to just do it for other people. If you're grinding for other people, you don't want to just
could hurt him.
As you said, it's not really a long-term goal, but it looks like he's trying to build his way up in competition to eventually fight Jake Paul down the line. Hopefully we see that match because it would be huge. It would be very exciting. And I mean, either way, it would be a huge platform and a huge stage. Such a long time in the making. it would really suck if we went like our lives without seeing Jake Paul versus KSI,
Yeah,
because
it's such a big fight.
it was such a big fight. It is so hyped, so much build around it, so much buzz, so much talk for so many years, and I think it is bound to happen at one point. I just hope it's sooner rather than later. As I mean, Jake Paul is also it's not like he's not training as well. He's getting into camp right now. He's going to have a fight. KSI is getting in camp. He's going to have a fight. It's going to be interesting to see where this goes, and even leading us into our next topic, who the fighters on this card are going to be, because this is a very interesting card. We have a new boxing promotion in town, Misfits Boxing, and we're going to see what card they can cook up.
And already we've seen two fighters who are signed to the Happy Punch promotion, Gideon and Saul Poppy, who are very willing and wanting to be on the KSI card. And of course,
Big names as
Gideon
well.
going to be making, yeah, definitely huge names, especially Gideon, who's very up and coming, and as well Saul Poppy, who's got huge platform on multiple, like TikTok, even YouTube,
Made a
and
statement on
multiple
that Showstar
places.
card.
Yeah, for sure, where he made his debut and pretty much showed out, and honestly, was a huge fan favorite of that entire event. And he was a lot of the hype, and I don't think many people expected it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Especially he got his name out there, which not as many people knew about him, and now a lot of people know about him.
Yeah, that was great promotion for really pushing his name and getting his name out there, especially to this YouTube boxing audience who are now very familiar with him and are excited to see him fight, because he's a good fighter. You could see that in his skills in his last fight.
Yeah, for sure. You could see he showed out some tools. Maybe wasn't, I guess you could say, against the best of the competition, but it was still a good challenge for his first fight, and we got to see some tools that he had. We even saw a little bit of the Mayweather slip back right hand, and we got to see a
Hands
few
behind the
tools that he
back,
had.
you know,
Yeah,
he had the
exactly.
taunting, he had
He's
his
a
tricks up his
showman.
sleeve. Yeah, for sure. He's definitely a showman. He's definitely an exciting fighter, as well as Gideon. He's a Twitch streamer. No, not Twitch anymore. Is he? I think he got banned off there. But
Yeah.
he's a streamer. He's a big streamer. He has a big platform, and to see him be a new player in this YouTube boxing scene is also interesting. We're gonna probably see a couple new faces in this YouTube boxing scene. Happy Punch Promotions, who both these guys are signed to, they've been signing a lot of different fighters and big name influencers that are going to be getting in the ring, which is definitely interesting to see which ones will be on this card and which ones will maybe even be on a future card down the line.
Yeah, for sure. Especially with them getting so many different fighters that are big, like huge names. Like they're not just like some little names. They've been actively hunting for a lot of big names and names that will be out there and definitely garner a lot of attention.
Yeah.
So I feel like they're gonna be huge players coming up to a lot of events, possibly their own event.
Yeah.
And it's definitely something massive to look out for.
Seems like they have a really good roster, good connections as well. As they have a lot of a lot of big name fighters, as well as Face Sensei. He's one of the guys that have been on KSI's card and is now signed to Happy Punch, which is he's an actual professional fighter, an actual sensei as his name presents. So with him being a big influencer and a big player in this YouTube boxing scene as well, probably one of the best YouTube boxers, if I'm honest. It's going to be interesting to see if he's going to get on this card, as I think he will, because he signed with Happy Punch. It makes sense. You know, he signed to them, so he's going to be fighting soon. And KSI card looks like the perfect opportunity. He's good friends with KSI, and he was on the KSI vs. Logan Paul 1 undercard. I think Face Sensei is definitely going to be someone to look out for on this card if that gets made.
And as well, King Kenny and Deji possibly being hinted on being on this card as well. Of course, both of them being trained by Daly, who's recently popped up in the scene of YouTube boxing as a big coach on the scene and has become pretty popular. So seeing them both, of course, Deji trying to get a win. Finally, it seems like we've been saying this forever now, but I guess maybe he could possibly go up against Fuzi or someone like that next.
Maybe
I
Joe
guess we'll have
Weller
to see what happens with him. Yeah, maybe even Joe Weller, who of course KSI fought
or
back in
Bryce Hall
2018.
possibly. There are a couple
there's
options
quite
still.
yeah, he definitely has quite a lot of options, but eventually he's gonna have to win, I guess, if he keeps going. And then also Kenny, who controversial fight with FaZe Temper, who originally he got the win and then it was overruled as it was very controversial, and FaZe Temper got the official win. And
But he's
now
definitely a good fighter.
yeah, he's for sure. It's not like he's a bad fighter. FaZe Temper was just better on the night, and he performed at a better level. But that does not mean at all that Kenny is bad. He's definitely a very good YouTube boxer, a very good fighter for the scene, and it's gonna be very interesting to see who's his opponent may be. It seemed like he was kind of alluding to fighting K possibly on the card, and it seemed like that kind of fell through as he made some tweets saying uh, K pretty much backed
To
out
do a
and he didn't want
rib
to fight.
injury, I think.
Yeah, to a rib injury. So we're gonna have to see what happens with that. But again, two big names and two huge UK supported fighters, and of course Deji being KSI'S younger brother, and Kenny who's part of the beta squad and frequently interacts with the sidemen and makes videos with them, and yeah, of course KSI. So we're gonna see what happens with them two.
Yeah, and Kenny, obviously in his debut, he didn't get the result he wanted, but Temper was a good game fighter, and he definitely trained very hard to do what he did in that fight.
Yeah, you can see that.
And I think he definitely has potential in this YouTube boxing scene the more he goes. I'd like to see him fight maybe someone like Taylor Holder, or honestly, somebody who he has been calling out and who said that he wants to box soon, Jay Swingler, who originally fought a Nissan Gibb on the undercard of KSI versus Logan Paul. They had an epic brawl, one of like the fight of the nights of that card, and that would be an interesting fight as well. Jay Swingler versus King Kenny. That makes a lot of sense. Jay Swingler looking to get back in there. He's a big name from TGF, so that would definitely be interesting. Hopefully some of these guys get on the card. This looks like they could get a really stacked card going here because there's a lot of potential. A lot of people who want to get on this card. It's gonna be interesting to see how their approach goes. Also, Face Temper possibly being could get on this card. I'm not sure if he'd really want to fight in the UK as some dodgy.
He had some bad experiences there.
But I mean, we don't really 100% know this in the UK, but it's pretty likely it's going to be in the UK. KSI is making his return. It makes a lot of sense. All these UK guys are coming out saying they want to fight, and I think Face Temper he could possibly be on this card. I don't know who he could fight. Even I mean, it wouldn't. He is a tough challenge for anyone. He's a 6'4" southpaw, around 180 pounds. So he's also a great fighter. He's very talented. He's probably a lot higher level than most of these guys. It would be interesting to see him against even maybe KSI if he got another win and could build his name more. He has the whole backing of FaZe Clan. Obviously, he's the founder of it. So that would be another interesting fighter that could get on this card. And there's not many other options really. I mean, there's obviously Anisam Gibb, who's looking to fight Austin McBroom, but he's always been on KSI cards. I'm pretty sure every single one of the KSI cards, besides the pro fight between KSI versus Logan Paul 2. He was on the Joe Weller undercard, he was on the Logan undercard. Yeah, he even tried to get on the undercard of KSI versus Logan Paul 2.
Yeah, he did.
But it ended up going 2 months later in their own event in Miami Fight Night with Jake Paul. So Gibb is definitely someone to look out for in this card, but I feel like with Austin McBroom kind of promising all these guys, like all those guys on the Social Gloves card, the YouTubers versus TikTokers, he promised them $5 million and all this money. He really brought like these fighters into the mindset that they're worth like so much more than they really are. I feel like Gibb might be one of those guys that are gonna try to maybe price himself out because we don't know if he's gonna want like 6 figures for this fight or whatever it is. Because a lot of these guys aren't really worth like that much, especially like being on the undercard of the event. It's not going to draw as much as you would think. Also, another guy from that Social Gloves card, Jarvis, as well. I think that would be a great fight. Hopefully, these guys don't price themselves out and they can actually fight on this card. Jarvis didn't even get paid. At least Gibb got paid. So, yeah. I mean, Jarvis has a reason to price himself out, I guess.
He didn't get paid.
Yeah. So, I mean,
he needs to make some dollars.
It would be interesting. Also, Jarvis's brother Kay, as we mentioned, but it doesn't look like he's fighting as he pulled out with the King Kenny fight due to injury. So there are a couple of fighters that would be awesome to fight in this card. It looks like it's a really stacked card, and it's very interesting.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, especially with all the names that are possible with this, it could definitely be a massive card. And of course, I'm sure KSI in his huge return event would not make this a giant card. And I feel like we're definitely going to be seeing a lot of new faces in the scene. Some old faces like Gibb, who's been here having multiple fights, but also some very interesting guys with promising futures potentially, like Gideon and maybe a couple other guys from the Happy Bunch promotion. So there's definitely a lot of potential there. And another thing we saw in that trailer for KSI's upcoming event was the Misfits Boxing. So that's pretty much his promotion that he's going to be doing these events under, and that's what's been going on for the future. So think of it kind of as a Jake Paul Most Valuable Promotions type of thing, where and maybe we could potentially be seeing in the future of Misfits Boxing how kind of Happy Punch has been doing, where they're signing fighters, and maybe eventually if Misfits Boxing has enough fighters under the roster, they can start making events like that, and that might be what KSI is looking to do as well. But as of right now, we just know he's going to be fighting under this promotion, and it's pretty much his. So we can see what he's gonna do from here. Maybe if he does some more outlandish stuff with it, or if
Yeah.
right now he kind of just teases it here and there. It's definitely an interesting card that he has, and we're gonna see what he does with it pretty much.
Yeah, this is interesting because we see this Misfits Boxing. It's a new player in the scene. We have so many new promotions, new companies. We see Social Gloves, Showstar, these companies coming and going. It's gonna be interesting to see if this one can maybe stay and put on a few cards, put on another KSI event. KSI's manager said that they wanted to put another event between KSI and Austin McBroom in the winter of this year. So I mean, if there's another card this year, that would be awesome. That'd be great. And if they can consistently put on new cards, new events, that would be awesome to see, especially for a player in the YouTube boxing scene. There isn't a lot of these promotions that are reliable and that are gonna continue putting on. Obviously, Social Gloves was a complete disaster. Showstar
Yeah.
wasn't much different. Besides, at least I think they got paid, so that's at least better. but
Yeah.
but it'll be interesting to see. As you said, it could be maybe a most valuable promotions esque company where they're gonna try to sign fighters and build them up, give them the platform, give them the opportunities with KSI as the backing, as the promoter, as the face of the company. So it's definitely interesting. I like where this is going. This is very interesting, very promising, and this card is definitely going to be interesting to see KSI back in there in the boxing ring. It's going to be super exciting to see. It's been a while. It's been a minute since
Yep.
KSI's gone in there, and it's exciting to see him finally get back in there, as he started this all with Joe Weller pretty much, and he's what really catapulted this into a different level of just famous people getting in the ring and just captivating the viewer's imagination. So super exciting to see these guys back in there, and yeah, that's pretty much all we got, right?
Yeah, it's just a very exciting future for the YouTube boxing scene, and there's definitely going to be a lot more upcoming, a lot more leaked, and we're going to see where it goes from here.